Dr. Alex Rivera had prepared for many challenges during his assignment to the Kepler Research Station, including equipment failures, hostile wildlife, and the psychological effects of extended isolation on an alien world. What he hadn't prepared for was being bitten by his assigned cultural liaison within the first hour of his arrival, though he supposed that situation probably wasn't covered in any xenobiological training manual. "Welcome to Zaria, 3, Dr. Rivera," announced Commander Sarah Hayes as Alex stepped off the transport shuttle into the station's controlled atmosphere. "I hope you're ready for an interesting assignment, because this planet has been full of surprises since we established the research outpost." Alex shouldered his equipment pack and looked around the station's main hub, noting the mixture of standard human technology and what appeared to be alien decorative elements that suggested ongoing cultural exchange with the local population. "I've reviewed the preliminary reports about the Zarian species," he replied, mentally cataloging the xenobiological protocols he'd memorized during the 3-week journey from Earth. "They seem remarkably cooperative for first contact situations. They are almost too cooperative, which is why we need a xenobiologist with your expertise in alien psychology and cultural adaptation." Commander Hayes led him through corridors lined with observation windows that offered views of Zaria 3's lavender sky and crystalline vegetation. The Zarians have been eager to learn about human culture, sometimes more eager than we're prepared for. Alex was examining his tablet's preliminary data about Zarian social structures when they entered the Cultural Liaison office, where he encountered his first actual alien in person rather than through video recordings. Zira stood nearly 6 feet tall with the graceful proportions of someone whose species had evolved in lower gravity, her distinctive pointed ears marking her as definitely not human despite otherwise familiar humanoid features. "Dr. Rivera, this is Zira, our primary cultural liaison and translator," Commander Hayes announced. "She's been looking forward to working with our new xenobiologist." Zira approached with fluid movements that suggested species-level optimization for efficient locomotion, her expression bright with curiosity about the new human researcher. "Dr. Rivera, I am pleased to finally meet you in person rather than through communication recordings." Alex extended his hand for what he assumed would be a standard greeting handshake, noting that Zira's approach to human customs seemed remarkably well-informed. "The pleasure is mine, Zira. I'm looking forward to learning about your people's culture and—" His sentence ended abruptly as Zira grasped his extended hand and, without warning, brought it to her mouth and delivered what he could only describe as a playful but definitely noticeable bite to the back of his hand. The sensation was sharp enough to trigger his reflexive pain response, though not severe enough to cause actual injury. "Ouch!" Alex exclaimed, instinctively pulling his hand back and examining the small marks left by Zira's teeth. "What was that for?" Zira's expression immediately shifted from cheerful greeting to confusion and something that looked like embarrassment. She stepped back, her pointed ears drooping slightly as she studied Alex's reaction with what appeared to be genuine distress. I apologize," she said, though her tone suggested confusion rather than understanding of what she was apologizing for. "I did not intend to cause discomfort." Commander Hayes looked between Alex and Zira with the expression of someone whose day had just become significantly more complicated than anticipated. "Dr. Rivera, I should have warned you that Zarian greeting customs can be physical. Zira, perhaps you could explain your cultural practices to our new researcher." "Among my people, gentle biting serves as expression of interest in social connection," Zira explained hesitantly, though her continued confusion suggested that Alex's reaction was not what she had expected from her cultural research about humans. "I believe this was acceptable form of greeting based on my studies of human interaction patterns." Alex rubbed the back of his hand, noting that the bite marks were already fading and that the sensation had been more surprising than actually painful. "I understand. Cultural differences. I should have been better prepared for non-human greeting customs." "No harm done," Commander Hayes interjected, though Alex noticed she was making notes on her tablet that probably involved updating cultural interaction protocols. "Zira, perhaps you could show Dr. Rivera to his quarters and help him get oriented to the station layout." Zira nodded, though her demeanor had noticeably changed from enthusiastic welcome to careful professional distance. "Of course, Commander. Dr. Rivera, if you will follow me, I will provide standard facility orientation. As they walked through the station's corridors, Alex noticed that Zira maintained careful physical distance and seemed reluctant to make eye contact. Her earlier enthusiasm had been replaced by formal politeness that suggested his reaction to her greeting had been culturally significant in ways he didn't understand. "Zira, I want to apologize if my response was inappropriate," he said, attempting to restore the friendly atmosphere that had existed before his reflexive "ouch." "I'm not accustomed to physical greeting customs, and I didn't mean to seem rejecting or rude." "Your response was unexpected," Zira replied carefully. "But perhaps human and Zarian social customs are more different than my research indicated." Alex noted that she still seemed distressed about the interaction, though he couldn't determine whether her concern was about cultural misunderstanding or something more personal. "I'm here to learn about your people's culture," he assured her. "If I made a mistake in protocol, please help me understand so I can do better in future interactions." Zira paused at the entrance to his assigned quarters, studying him with an expression that suggested she was trying to process information that didn't fit her expectations about human behavior. "Dr. Rivera, when you said, 'ouch,' and pulled away from my greeting, were you indicating that my presence is unwelcome?" Alex realized that his reflexive response to unexpected physical contact had been interpreted as something far more significant than simple surprise. "Not at all, Zira. I was just startled by an unfamiliar sensation. Your presence is definitely welcome." Zira's ears perked up slightly at his reassurance, though she still seemed uncertain about how to interpret his earlier reaction. "I will consult with my family about appropriate interaction protocols with humans," she said finally. "Perhaps there are cultural considerations that were not included in my preparation materials." As Alex watched Zira walk away with careful, measured steps so different from her earlier fluid confidence, he realized that his simple "ouch" had somehow created a cultural misunderstanding that was going to require more than basic apologies to resolve. Alex's first day of fieldwork on Zaria 3 was proceeding smoothly until he realized that his assigned cultural guide was maintaining exactly 3 meters of distance from him at all times, which made collaborative research somewhat challenging when studying alien plant specimens that required detailed observation and discussion. The crystalline formations in the vegetation appear to serve both structural and photosynthetic functions, Alex observed, examining a specimen that looked like someone had crossbred a tree with a geometric art installation. "Zira, what can you tell me about how your people traditionally interact with these plants?" "My people maintain respectful distance from the growth patterns during certain seasonal cycles," Zira replied from her careful position several meters away, her tone carrying the formal politeness that had replaced yesterday's enthusiasm. "Physical contact can disrupt the harmonic resonance that guides development." Alex noted that Zira's explanation was thorough and professional, but delivered with none of the personal warmth or casual interaction he'd observed in her initial greeting. Her behavior suggested someone who was fulfilling assigned duties while maintaining emotional and physical barriers that hadn't existed during their first meeting. "Are you feeling all right today?" Alex asked, setting down his sampling equipment and turning to face his guide directly. "You seem more reserved than yesterday." Zira's pointed ears drooped slightly, a gesture Alex was learning indicated distress or uncertainty among her species. "I am providing appropriate professional assistance for your research objectives. But you're not comfortable with me personally." "I am uncertain about appropriate interaction protocols," Zira admitted, her careful word choice suggesting she was struggling with concepts that didn't translate easily between their cultures. "My family has advised caution in cultural exchanges until better understanding is achieved." Alex realized that his reflexive response to her greeting bite had somehow triggered family-level concern about his intentions or cultural compatibility. "Zira, did I offend you or your family with my reaction yesterday?" "Offense is not the correct concept," she replied hesitantly. "But your response indicated rejection of social connection that was unexpected and concerning." Dr. Sarah Kim, the station's psychologist, approached their research site with the expression of someone whose morning had been spent dealing with cultural complications rather than routine psychological evaluations. "Dr. Rivera, I've been reviewing yesterday's interaction reports," she announced without preamble. I think we may have a significant cultural misunderstanding that needs immediate attention. What kind of misunderstanding? Alex asked, though he suspected the answer involved his reaction to Zira's greeting bite. The kind that could affect diplomatic relations between our species if we don't address it properly. Dr. Kim activated her tablet, displaying what appeared to be preliminary research about Zarian social customs. I've been analyzing available data about Zarian greeting behaviors, and I think Zira's bite carried more significance than either of you realized. Zira moved closer to their conversation, her posture suggesting both curiosity and apprehension about what the human psychologist had discovered. Among Zarian social structures, biting appears to serve multiple functions related to social bonding and relationship establishment, Dr. Kim explained. It's not just a greeting, it's a social invitation that carries emotional and cultural weight. What kind of invitation? Alex asked, feeling a growing sense that his "ouch" response had been far more significant than simple cultural clumsiness. That's what we need to determine. Zira, would you be willing to explain what your greeting bite was intended to communicate? Zira studied both humans with the expression of someone trying to decide how much cultural information to reveal to potentially unreceptive aliens. Among my people, gentle biting serves as indication of interest in forming social bonds, she said carefully. It communicates willingness to establish friendship, partnership, or family connections depending on context and individual relationships. Alex felt his stomach drop as he realized that his reflexive rejection had been interpreted as social rebuff rather than simple surprise. So when I said "ouch" and pulled away, you indicated that social bonding with me was unwelcome or undesirable, Zira finished quietly. Dar. Kim was taking notes with the efficiency of someone documenting a cultural incident that would require formal reports and revised interaction protocols. Zira, in your culture, how significant is it when someone rejects a bonding invitation? It depends on the context and relationship between individuals, Zira replied. But rejection of initial bonding attempts can indicate that the rejected person is considered unsuitable for friendship or partnership. Alex looked at Zira, whose careful professional distance suddenly made complete sense in the context of someone who believed she'd been personally rejected by someone she'd attempted to befriend. Zira, I didn't reject you personally, he said earnestly. I was just surprised by an unfamiliar sensation. In human culture, biting usually indicates aggression or hostility, so my reaction was reflexive rather than intentional. But your response communicated rejection regardless of intention, Dr. Kim observed. And now we need to figure out how to address the cultural damage that's been done. Zira's ears perked up slightly at Alex's explanation, though her expression remained cautious. Dr. Rivera, are you saying that your "ouch" response was not intended as rejection of social bonding? Absolutely not. I would very much like to establish a friendship with you, if that's possible given the cultural misunderstanding. Resolution may require understanding of complete Zarian bonding customs, Zira said thoughtfully. Simple apologies may not address the social implications of interrupted bonding processes. Alex realized that his xenobiological assignment had just become significantly more complex, involving not just scientific research but also navigation of alien social customs that could affect both his professional mission and Zira's personal well-being. Then let's learn about those customs, he said. Because I'd rather understand how to do this right than continue accidentally offending someone I'm supposed to be working with. Dr. Kim smiled with the satisfaction of someone whose psychological intervention had identified a path toward resolution. Zira, would you be willing to teach us about proper Zarian social interaction protocols? Such education would require significant cultural sharing, Zira replied. And consideration of whether human psychology can adapt to Zarian social requirements. Alex looked at his guide, whose careful distance was beginning to feel less like professional protocol and more like emotional protection, and realized that learning about alien culture was about to become far more personal than any training manual had prepared him for. The cultural education session that Dr. Kim arranged took place in the station's conference room, with Zira providing what amounted to an intensive course in Zarian social psychology while Alex tried to process how dramatically he'd misunderstood their initial interaction. The revelation that her playful bite had been a formal social invitation was making him reconsider everything he thought he knew about alien cultural protocols. Biting among my people serves as primary mechanism for establishing social relationships, Zira explained, using the room's holographic display to show images of Zarian social interactions that looked remarkably intimate by human standards. It communicates interest, intention, and willingness to form emotional connections. Alex studied the displays, noting that Zarian social biting appeared to be both more complex and more significant than simple greeting customs. And my reaction was interpreted as rejection of that social relationship. Rejection of bonding invitation carries significant emotional and social implications, Zira confirmed, her tone suggesting she was sharing information that was personally difficult to discuss. Among my people, such rejection indicates that the individual who attempted bonding is considered unworthy of connection. Dr. Kim was documenting everything with the thoroughness of someone whose psychological report would influence future human-Zarian interactions. Zira, what are the typical consequences when bonding invitations are rejected? Social isolation, emotional distress, and potential damage to family relationships, Zira replied matter-of-factly, though Alex could see that discussing these consequences was causing her visible discomfort. Alex felt a wave of guilt as he realized that his simple ouch had caused psychological harm that extended beyond their personal interaction. Zira, I had no idea that my reaction would cause you emotional distress. Is there a way to undo the cultural damage? Resolution requires understanding of complete bonding process and its significance, Zira said carefully. What humans call apology may not address the social and emotional implications of interrupted bonding. Then help me understand the complete process, Alex requested. What should have happened after your initial bite? Zira activated additional holographic displays that showed Zarian social bonding rituals that appeared to involve complex sequences of physical interaction, emotional sharing, and what looked like biochemical exchange. Traditional bonding proceeds through stages of increasing intimacy and commitment, she explained. Initial bite indicates interest. Acceptance leads to deeper bonding behaviors that establish emotional and physiological connections between individuals. Physiological connections? Dr. Kim asked, her scientific curiosity apparently overriding diplomatic caution. Zarian bonding involves biochemical processes that enhance emotional connection and mutual understanding, Zira explained. Bonded individuals develop enhanced empathy, improved communication, and shared emotional experiences. Alex was beginning to understand that Zarian social bonding was far more complex than simple friendship protocols. Are you saying that your people form biochemical connections that allow shared emotions? Among bonded pairs, yes. The process creates permanent emotional links that allow partners to understand each other's feelings and intentions without verbal communication. Dr. Kim leaned forward with the expression of someone whose psychological research had just encountered something unprecedented. Zira, are you describing a form of telepathic bonding? Not telepathy in the sense of shared thoughts, Zira clarified. But shared emotions, physical sensations, and enhanced understanding of partners' psychological state. Alex realized that Zira's greeting bite had been an invitation to form a connection that would fundamentally alter both their psychological and physiological functioning. And I accidentally rejected an invitation to form this kind of bond. You rejected initial stage of bonding process that could have led to such connection, depending on mutual compatibility and desire for deeper relationship. What kind of deeper relationship? Alex asked, though he was beginning to suspect the answer would challenge his assumptions about the nature of their potential friendship. Zira's ears drooped as she prepared to reveal information that was apparently difficult to share with someone who'd already rejected her bonding invitation. Among my people, completed bonding typically indicates life partnership similar to what humans call marriage, though the connection is more intimate than human relationships typically achieve. Alex stared at Zira as he processed the revelation that her greeting bite had been approximately equivalent to a marriage proposal delivered within minutes of their first meeting. So when I said ouch and pulled away, he said slowly, I was essentially rejecting a proposal for life partnership. You were rejecting consideration for potential partnership, Zira corrected. Complete bonding requires mutual consent and extended process to ensure compatibility. Dr. Kim was making notes with the expression of someone whose psychological report was going to be significantly more complex than anticipated. Zira, what are the implications for your social status among your people given Alex's rejection of bonding consideration? My family is concerned about my judgment in selecting potential partners, Zira admitted. Failed bonding attempts reflect poorly on individuals' ability to assess compatibility and social appropriateness. Alex felt responsibility for cultural damage that extended far beyond their personal interaction. Is there a way to restore your social standing without completing a bonding process that I don't fully understand? Restoration requires either successful completion of bonding with originally selected partner, or formal release from bonding obligation that acknowledges initial selection was culturally appropriate despite ultimately unsuccessful. And how does one obtain formal release? Through demonstration that rejection was based on cultural misunderstanding rather than personal inadequacy of the individual who initiated bonding. Alex looked at Zira, whose professional distance was now clearly emotional protection against further rejection, and at Dr. Kim, whose psychological assessment would influence future human-alien interactions. What would be required to demonstrate cultural misunderstanding rather than personal rejection, he asked. Education about Zarian bonding customs, followed by informed reconsideration of bonding invitation based on complete understanding of cultural significance and personal implications. Alex realized that resolving their cultural misunderstanding would require him to seriously consider forming a biochemical emotional bond with an alien whose initial greeting had been a marriage proposal disguised as cultural exchange. Dr. Kim, what's your professional assessment of this situation? My assessment is that you've accidentally become involved in the most complex intercultural relationship challenge in human history, she replied. And that resolving it properly could establish protocols for future human-alien social interactions. Alex looked at Zira, whose careful composure was clearly masking significant emotional distress caused by his reflexive rejection of an invitation he'd never understood. Zira, if you're willing to teach me about Zarian bonding customs, I'm willing to learn enough to make an informed decision about reconsideration. The advanced cultural education session took place in Zira's personal quarters, which Alex discovered were decorated with what appeared to be family portraits and cultural artifacts that suggested her background was more significant than he'd initially understood. The revelation that her greeting bite had carried romantic implications was about to become even more complex as she prepared to explain the full scope of Zarian bonding customs. Before we proceed with bonding education, Zira said carefully, settling onto what appeared to be a meditation cushion designed for her species' proportions, I must reveal additional context about my personal circumstances that may affect your consideration. Alex positioned himself on the human-style furniture that had been provided for cross-species diplomatic meetings, noting that Zira's quarters contained communication equipment that seemed far more sophisticated than standard liaison facilities. What kind of additional context? He asked, though her serious tone suggested information that would complicate an already complex situation. My family holds significant social position within Zarian society, Zira explained, activating holographic displays that showed what appeared to be elaborate architectural structures and large group gatherings. My bonding choices carry implications that extend beyond personal relationships. Dr. Kim, who'd been granted permission to document the cultural exchange for future diplomatic reference, looked up from her notes with growing concern. Zira, are you saying that your social status affects the significance of bonding decisions? Among my people, individuals from prominent families are expected to form bonds that strengthen social connections and advance cultural development, Zira confirmed. My selection of bonding partner reflects not only personal preference but also family honor and social responsibility. Alex studied the holographic images, which seemed to show Zira participating in formal ceremonies and official functions that suggested leadership roles rather than simple cultural liaison duties. Exactly how prominent is your family? He asked, beginning to suspect that his accidental rejection had diplomatic implications beyond personal relationships. My family serves as cultural advisors to the Planetary Leadership Council, Zira said quietly. My bonding decisions are observed and evaluated by individuals who influence policy regarding human-Zarian relationships. Dr. Kim set down her tablet with the expression of someone whose documentation project had just expanded to include interplanetary diplomatic considerations. So Alex's rejection of your bonding invitation could affect official relations between our species? It could be interpreted as evidence that humans consider Xerians unsuitable for intimate social relationships, Zira confirmed. Which would influence policy recommendations about future cultural exchange programs. Alex felt the weight of responsibility expanding from personal cultural misunderstanding to potential diplomatic crisis. And if I were to reconsider the bonding invitation? Successful human-Xerian bonding would demonstrate species compatibility and support expanded cooperation between our civilizations. No pressure, Alex muttered, realizing that his decision about Zira's romantic interest could influence the future of interspecies relations. Zira activated additional displays that showed the biochemical aspects of Xerian bonding, revealing that the process involved far more than emotional connection. The scientific data suggested that bonding created physiological changes that enhanced both partners' capabilities while establishing permanent psychological links. Bonding involves exchange of biological markers that create enhanced immune function, improved healing, and optimized physical performance, she explained. Bonded pairs typically experience improved health and longevity compared to unbonded individuals. You're saying that forming this bond would actually improve my physical health? Alex asked, studying biological data that suggested Xerian bonding enhanced human physiology in ways that medical science couldn't duplicate. Xerian bonding biochemistry is compatible with human physiology, Zira confirmed. Enhanced immune function, accelerated healing, and improved cognitive performance are standard benefits of successful bonding. Dr. Kim was reviewing the biological data with fascination. These physiological improvements are remarkable. The immune system enhancements alone could revolutionize human medicine. But the process also creates permanent emotional connections that cannot be reversed, Zira added. Bonded individuals experience shared emotions and empathic links that affect both partners for life. Alex considered the implications of forming a permanent emotional connection with someone he'd known for less than a week, even if that connection came with significant physiological benefits. What exactly would I experience during the bonding process, he asked. Initial stage involves completion of interrupted greeting bite, which establishes basic biochemical connection, Zira explained. Subsequent stages involve emotional sharing, psychological compatibility assessment, and final bonding ceremony that creates permanent partnership link. And if we discover during the process that we're not compatible? Early stage bonding can be terminated without permanent effects, Zira assured him. But completion of full bonding process creates irreversible connection between partners. Alex looked at the scientific data showing health improvements that exceeded anything human medicine could provide, then at Zira, whose careful explanation of bonding customs was clearly emotionally difficult for someone who'd already experienced rejection. Zira, setting aside the diplomatic and health implications, how do you personally feel about the possibility of bonding with someone from a different species? I would not have offered bonding invitation if I did not believe in potential for meaningful partnership, she replied carefully. But bonding requires mutual commitment from both individuals, not just diplomatic or medical considerations. And if I decided to explore the bonding process, what would that mean for both of us personally? It would mean accepting possibility of permanent emotional connection with someone whose psychology and cultural background are different from traditional Xerian partnerships. Alex realized that his decision involved not just personal relationship choices, but also acceptance of biochemical changes that would fundamentally alter his physiology and psychology for the rest of his life. Dr. Kim, what's your professional assessment of the psychological implications? From a psychological perspective, the empathic connections could enhance communication and emotional understanding between partners, she replied. But they would also mean giving up certain aspects of individual privacy and emotional independence. Alex studied Zira, who was waiting patiently for his decision about whether to pursue educational exploration of bonding customs that could lead to permanent partnership with significant diplomatic, medical, and personal implications. Zira, if I agree to learn about bonding customs with the possibility of completing the process, what would be the first step? Completion of greeting bite that was accidentally interrupted, she said quietly. But this time with full understanding of its significance and your consent to begin bonding exploration. Alex extended his hand toward Zira, this time prepared for what her gentle bite would represent in terms of cultural meaning and biological consequences. Then let's begin the education process properly. The completion of Zira's greeting bite was a significantly different experience when Alex understood its cultural significance and was prepared for the biochemical effects that followed. Instead of reflexive pain, he experienced a warm tingling sensation that spread from the bite site throughout his nervous system, accompanied by what could only be described as an empathic echo of Zira's emotional state. The biochemical bonding agents are now active in your system, Dr. James Park announced, monitoring Alex's vital signs with equipment that registered changes his enhanced physiology was undergoing. Heart rate elevated but stable, immune markers showing significant improvement, and neural activity indicating enhanced connectivity patterns. Alex studied the bite mark on his hand, which had healed completely within minutes and now showed a faint crystalline pattern that seemed to shift colors depending on the viewing angle. Is this marking permanent? The bonding mark serves multiple functions, Zira explained, examining her own hand where a corresponding mark had appeared. It identifies bonded individuals to other Zarians, provides biochemical monitoring of partners' health status, and serves as communication interface for empathic connection. Communication interface. Bonded partners can share emotional states and basic intentions through contact with bonding marks, Zira demonstrated by touching her mark to Alex's, causing him to experience a sudden flood of her contentment and cautious optimism about their developing relationship. Dr. Kim was documenting everything with scientific fascination. Alex, can you describe the empathic connection experience? It's like suddenly understanding someone's emotional state without any verbal communication, Alex replied, still processing the intensity of directly experiencing Zira's feelings. I can sense her mood, her intentions, even her physical comfort level. The connection will strengthen over time as biochemical integration progresses, Zira added. Bonded pairs eventually develop ability to sense partners' emotional state across significant distances. Dr. Park's medical scanners were showing continued physiological changes as Alex's system adapted to the Zarian bonding biochemistry. The immune system improvements are remarkable. Your resistance to disease and toxins has increased approximately 300% since the bonding process began. 300%? Alex asked, feeling more energetic and alert than he'd experienced since arriving on Zaria, free. Zarian bonding enhances human physiology in ways that medical science cannot duplicate through conventional means, Dr. Park confirmed. Enhanced healing, improved cognitive function, and optimized physical performance are standard benefits. Alex was beginning to understand why Zira's family considered bonding decisions significant beyond personal relationships. The biochemical improvements alone could revolutionize human capabilities, while the empathic connections offered possibilities for communication that transcended language barriers. Zira, what does the bonding mark communicate to other Zarians about our relationship status? The mark indicates that you are under my protection and partnership consideration, she explained. Other Zarians will recognize that you have been selected for potential bonding and will treat you as family member rather than foreign researcher. Protection. Bonded or claimed individuals gain social status and rights within Zarian communities, Zira clarified. You would be considered part of my family structure with corresponding privileges and responsibilities. Dr. Kim looked up from her notes with growing understanding of the cultural implications. So the bonding mark essentially gives Alex citizenship status in Zarian society? Provisional citizenship pending completion of full bonding process, Zira confirmed. But yes, marked individuals are granted social standing and legal protections within our communities. Alex realized that his decision to explore Zarian bonding customs had already transformed his status from foreign researcher to provisional family member with rights and responsibilities he didn't fully understand. What kind of responsibilities? He asked, touching the bonding mark and experiencing another empathic flash of Zira's emotional state, this time revealing her nervousness about his reaction to the expanding implications of their relationship. Marked individuals are expected to participate in family decisions, contribute to community welfare, and maintain honor of bonding partners' family reputation, Zira explained. Though cultural education would be provided to help you understand these obligations. And the privileges? Access to Zarian knowledge, technology, and social resources. Protection under family and community law. Participation in cultural ceremonies and decision-making processes that affect community welfare. Dr. Park was monitoring ongoing biochemical changes with amazement. Alex, the bonding process is enhancing your ability to process alien environments. Your tolerance for Zaria 3's atmospheric composition has improved dramatically. Alex felt the enhanced energy and mental clarity that accompanied his physiological improvements, while simultaneously processing empathic information about Zira's emotional state that provided insight into her personality and intentions far beyond what verbal communication could convey. How many Zarians will be able to detect the bonding mark? He asked. All Zarians possess biochemical senses that can identify bonding marks and relationship status, Zira replied. The mark announces your connection to my family and your provisional acceptance into Zarian social structure. So I'm essentially wearing a sign that says I'm claimed by your family? More accurately, you are wearing indication that my family considers you worthy of protection and potential permanent acceptance, Zira corrected gently. Alex studied the bonding mark that had transformed him from human researcher to provisional Zarian family member with enhanced physiology and empathic connections to someone whose emotional state he could now sense directly. Zira, given the physiological changes and social implications, what happens if we decide that complete bonding isn't appropriate for our personalities or circumstances? Early-stage bonding can be dissolved with minimal lasting effects, she assured him. Though the physiological improvements and basic empathic connection would remain permanently. And if we decide to proceed with complete bonding? Full bonding would create permanent psychological link, enhanced empathic abilities, and lifelong commitment between partners that transcends individual desires or circumstances. Alex touched the bonding mark again, experiencing Zira's hope and anxiety about his decision regarding their relationship's future, while processing the reality that his simple xenobiological assignment had evolved into consideration of permanent interspecies partnership with diplomatic, medical, and personal implications that would affect the rest of his life. I think, he said finally, I need to learn more about what complete bonding actually involves before making any irreversible decisions. Zira's empathic response through the bonding mark conveyed understanding and appreciation for his cautious approach to life-altering relationship commitments. Zira's family arrived at the research station 3 days after Alex received his bonding mark, and their presence immediately transformed the facility from a modest scientific outpost into what appeared to be the site of significant diplomatic proceedings. The 3 Zarians who emerged from their crystalline transport vessel carried themselves with the authority of individuals accustomed to making decisions that affected entire civilizations. Dr. Rivera, I am honored to meet the human who has captured my daughter's interest, announced Elder Kes Moonwhisper, Zira's mother, whose formal bearing and elaborate ceremonial clothing suggested high social rank within Zarian hierarchy. Your willingness to learn about our bonding customs demonstrates respect for cultural exchange that bodes well for interspecies cooperation. Alex attempted what he hoped was appropriate formal greeting behavior, noting that Elder Moonwhisper's examination of his bonding mark was thorough and apparently approving. The honor is mine, Elder Moonwhisper. Zira has been an excellent teacher about Zarian culture, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to learn about your people's social customs. Learning about customs is preliminary step, observed Elder Tam Star Weaver, Zira's father, whose assessment of Alex felt like comprehensive evaluation of character, intelligence, and cultural adaptability. Understanding implications of bonding requires deeper education about Zarian psychology and social responsibility. Dr. Kim approached with the cautious diplomacy of someone whose psychological documentation had become formal interspecies relationship counseling. Elders, what does the education process typically involve for potential bonding partners? Traditional bonding education includes instruction in family history, cultural obligations, emotional compatibility assessment, and preparation for psychological integration, Elder Moonwhisper explained. Though cross-species bonding requires additional consideration of physiological and cultural differences. Alex realized that what he'd thought would be simple cultural learning was actually comprehensive preparation for potential life partnership that would be evaluated by Zira's family and community. What kind of cultural obligations? He asked, sensing through his bonding mark that Zira was experiencing anxiety about her family's assessment of his suitability. Bonded individuals become part of extended family structure with responsibilities for community welfare, family honor, and social harmony, Elder Star Weaver explained. These obligations extend beyond personal relationship to include participation in cultural decisions that affect clan and community. Elder Dex Crystal Song, whom Zira introduced as her aunt and family spiritual advisor, activated holographic displays showing complex social structures and ceremonial practices that appeared to govern Zarian community life. Bonding education typically requires several months of intensive cultural immersion, she explained. Candidates must demonstrate understanding of family traditions, community responsibilities, and ability to maintain harmony within existing social relationships. Alex studied the displays showing ceremonies, celebrations, and community gatherings that would apparently become part of his life if he completed the bonding process with Zira. And the emotional compatibility assessment? Dr. Kim asked with professional interest in the psychological evaluation methods. Bonded partners must demonstrate psychological harmony, complementary emotional patterns, and ability to maintain empathic connection without overwhelming individual identity, Elder Moon Whisper replied. The assessment determines whether personalities are suitable for permanent psychological integration. What happens if the assessment reveals incompatibility? Alex asked. Early-stage bonding can be concluded with honor intact for both parties, Elder Star Weaver assured him. Failed compatibility is not considered reflection on individual worth, merely indication that personalities are not optimally suited for permanent partnership. Zira stepped forward with the careful formality of someone participating in family evaluation processes. Elders, Dr. Rivera has demonstrated respect for our customs and genuine interest in understanding bonding significance. I believe he would benefit from comprehensive cultural education. Cultural education requires temporary residence within family structure, Elder Crystal Song noted. Dr. Rivera would need to live among our people for extended period to properly understand social integration requirements. Alex looked at the research mission that had brought him to Zaria, 3, then at Zira, whose empathic state conveyed hope mixed with concern about his willingness to commit to extensive cultural education. How extensive? He asked. 3 standard months minimum, Elder Moon Whisper replied. During which time you would participate in family activities, community ceremonies, and cultural learning that would prepare you for informed decision about completing bonding process. Dr. Kim was making notes about cross-species relationship protocols that would probably become mandatory reading for future diplomatic personnel. And during this education period, what would Alex's status be within Zarian society? He would be considered family candidate with provisional acceptance and protection, Elder Star Weaver explained. Community members would treat him as potential family member while evaluating his cultural adaptation and personality compatibility. Alex realized that accepting Zira's family's education offer would essentially mean taking a 3-month leave from his research mission to live as a provisional member of an alien community while being evaluated for permanent membership. What about my research obligations? He asked. Zarian communities contain extensive knowledge about local ecosystems and biological processes, Elder Crystal Song noted. Cultural education could provide access to scientific information that would enhance your research beyond what individual study could achieve. Additionally, bonded partnerships between species typically produce enhanced capabilities that benefit both individual research and community knowledge, Zira added through both verbal communication and empathic connection that conveyed her hope he would accept her family's offer. Alex touched his bonding mark, experiencing Zira's emotional state directly and understanding that his decision would affect not just their personal relationship but also her standing within her family and community. Elders, I would be honored to accept cultural education that would help me understand bonding implications and Zarian social requirements, he said formally. Though I should mention that my understanding of your customs is still quite limited. Limited understanding is expected, Elder Moon Whisper replied with what appeared to be approval. Cultural education exists specifically to address such limitations through direct experience and guided learning. When would this education begin? Alex asked. Immediately, Elder Starweaver announced. Cultural immersion is most effective when candidates commit fully to learning process without distraction from alternative obligations. Alex looked at Zira, whose empathic communication conveyed excitement and gratitude about his acceptance of her family's education offer, and realized that his xenobiological assignment had just been suspended in favor of intensive preparation for potential interspecies marriage with diplomatic implications that could affect human-Zarian relations for generations. Dr. Kim, I think you're going to need additional documentation protocols for this situation. I think, Dr. Kim replied, I'm going to need an entirely new category of psychological assessment procedures. 3 months of cultural immersion in Zarian society had transformed Alex from a human researcher trying to understand alien customs into someone who participated naturally in community decisions, family ceremonies, and the complex social harmony that governed Zarian civilization. The bonding ceremony that would formalize his permanent partnership with Zira was taking place in the crystalline amphitheater that served as the sacred center of their community. The formal bonding will create permanent empathic connection that extends beyond individual consciousness, Elder Crystal Song explained as Alex prepared for the ceremony that would biochemically and psychologically link him with Zira for life. Bonded partners experience shared emotions, mutual awareness, and enhanced capabilities that exceed individual limitations. Alex nodded, wearing ceremonial robes that incorporated both human and Zarian design elements, symbolizing the cultural bridge their relationship represented. His 3 months among Zira's people had taught him to appreciate the depth of connection that Zarian bonding created, while also understanding the responsibilities and privileges that came with permanent family membership. Are you prepared for psychological integration that will affect your individual identity? Elder Moon Whisper asked, conducting the final compatibility assessment that would determine whether the bonding ceremony should proceed. I understand that bonding will create shared consciousness while maintaining individual personality, Alex replied, using concepts he'd learned through extensive cultural education and direct observation of bonded pairs within the community. Zira approached wearing traditional bonding attire that incorporated living crystalline elements programmed to respond to her emotional state. Her excitement and nervousness about the ceremony created patterns of light that danced across the amphitheater's walls. Alex, completing this bonding will create connection that transcends individual experience, she said through both verbal communication and the empathic link they developed during his cultural education. Are you certain this is the path you want to choose? Alex touched his bonding mark, which had evolved during his time among her people from simple identification symbol to complex communication interface that allowed increasingly sophisticated emotional and psychological connection. I've learned that bonding doesn't eliminate individual identity, it enhances it through permanent partnership with someone whose perspective and capabilities complement your own, he replied. I want to complete this bond with you. Dr. Kim attended the ceremony as official human representative and psychological observer, documenting the first formal interspecies bonding for future diplomatic and scientific reference. The ceremony will establish telepathic connection that allows communication across distances and shared access to emotional and physical sensations, she noted, reviewing the biochemical and psychological changes that would result from completed bonding. Elder Starweaver began the formal ceremony using harmonic frequencies that created resonance patterns throughout the crystalline amphitheater. The community gathered to witness and support the bonding, their collective presence adding emotional depth to the ritual. Bonding partners must demonstrate commitment through synchronized emotional sharing, Elder Crystal Song announced, guiding Alex and Zira through the ceremony's requirements. Alex and Zira joined hands, their bonding marks creating direct connection that allowed complete emotional transparency. Alex experienced Zira's love, hope, and commitment while sharing his own feelings of belonging, partnership, and determination to honor the relationship they were formalizing. The empathic connection is now permanent, Elder Moon Whisper observed as Alex felt his consciousness expand to include constant awareness of Zira's emotional state and physical condition. Bonded partners will maintain this connection regardless of distance or circumstances. The ceremony continued with biochemical bonding that enhanced the physiological improvements Alex had experienced during his cultural education. His immune system, cognitive function, and physical capabilities integrated with Xerian enhancements that optimized his biology for extended lifespan and improved resilience. Completed bonding provides enhanced healing, extended longevity, and improved resistance to environmental challenges, Dr. Park noted, monitoring the biological changes through equipment that registered improvements exceeding human medical capabilities. Alex felt the final stage of bonding as his consciousness merged temporarily with Zira's, creating shared awareness that included her memories, emotions, and perspective on their relationship and future together. The telepathic link is now established, Elder Crystal Song announced as Alex discovered he could communicate with Zira through direct mental contact that transcended verbal language. "How do you feel about permanent partnership?" Zira asked through their new telepathic connection, her mental voice carrying emotional undertones that verbal communication couldn't convey. "Like I've found the other half of my consciousness that I didn't know was missing," Alex replied through the same mental link, experiencing the completeness that came from permanent psychological integration with someone whose personality perfectly complemented his own. The ceremony concluded with community recognition of their bonded status and formal welcome of Alex as permanent family member with full rights and responsibilities within Xerian society. "Dr. Rivera, or should I say, Alex Moonwhisper Rivera, you are now recognized as bonded partner and family member with all privileges and obligations such status entails," Elder Moonwhisper announced, using the combined name that reflected his integration into their clan structure. "The bonded pair will serve as cultural liaison between human and Xerian communities," Elder Starweaver added, helping to establish protocols for future interspecies relationships and cooperation. Alex and Zira experienced the ceremony's completion through both individual consciousness and shared awareness, their permanent bond creating enhanced understanding and capabilities that exceeded what either could achieve independently. "The telepathic connection allows us to work together with unprecedented coordination," Zira observed through their mental link. "Our research capabilities will be enhanced by constant communication and shared perspective." Dr. Kim was documenting everything with amazement at the successful interspecies bonding and its implications for future human-alien relationships. "The psychological integration appears complete without loss of individual identity," she noted. Alex and Zira maintained distinct personalities while sharing enhanced emotional and telepathic connection. Alex looked around the amphitheater filled with Xerian family and community members who now considered him permanent family, then at Zira, whose thoughts and emotions he could now access directly through their telepathic bond. 3 months ago, I was a xenobiologist studying alien plant life," he said aloud. "Now I'm a permanently bonded interspecies partner with telepathic abilities and enhanced physiology. And diplomatic responsibilities for establishing protocols that could benefit both our species," Zira added through their mental connection, her thoughts carrying anticipation about their future work together. "Not to mention," Alex continued, "the most profound personal relationship of my life with someone whose consciousness is now permanently integrated with mine." Elder Crystal Song smiled with satisfaction at the successful bonding ceremony. Such transformations represent the highest achievement of cultural exchange, relationships that enhance both individuals while building bridges between entire civilizations. As the ceremony concluded and the community celebrated their bonded partnership, Alex realized that his reflexive, ouch, response to an alien bite had led to the most significant transformation of his entire existence. 2 years after relocating to the Andromedan Trade Federation's capital station, Jake stood in what had become the most advanced mechanical facility in known space, watching human and alien engineers collaborate on propulsion systems that incorporated his unconventional repair techniques into standard galactic technology. The transformation of both his career and his understanding of the universe still amazed him daily. The Thompson efficiency protocols have been adopted across 43 star systems, reported Chief Engineer Kes Voidwright, reviewing performance data that showed Jake's mechanical innovations had revolutionized interstellar transportation efficiency. Drive system performance has improved by an average of 18%, while maintenance requirements have decreased significantly. "I still can't believe that jury-rigging alien technology with automotive tools has become an official engineering methodology," Jake replied, studying holographic displays that showed his repair techniques being taught at technical academies throughout the Trade Federation. Unconventional problem-solving approaches often produce superior solutions to standardized protocols, Princess Zara observed, joining them in the facility that had become the center for human Andromedan technological collaboration. Your contributions have validated the Federation's decision to prioritize diversity in engineering approaches. Emma, now 10 years old and fluent in 12 galactic languages, bounded into the workshop with the enthusiasm of someone whose education included everything from quantum physics to interstellar diplomacy. Her academic achievements at the galaxy's most prestigious institutions had exceeded even Princess Zara's optimistic projections. "Daddy, Professor Crystalline says my thesis on dimensional engineering applications is ready for publication in the Academy's scientific journal," she announced, carrying research that would probably advance human understanding of physics by several decades. "That's wonderful, sweetheart," Jake said, marveling at his daughter's casual mastery of concepts that had been completely beyond human knowledge just a few years earlier. "Are you still planning to present it at the Interstellar Student Conference next month?" "Yes," and Zara said she'll help me prepare for questions from the panel of experts. Emma had maintained her friendship with Princess Zara despite the complexity of their new circumstances, though their relationship had evolved to include mentorship in galactic politics and diplomacy. Princess Zara smiled at Emma's excitement, her expression carrying the warmth of someone who'd watched a brilliant child flourish beyond all expectations. Emma's work on dimensional engineering represents innovations that could benefit transportation systems throughout the galaxy. Jake reflected on how his family's circumstances had transformed from struggling to pay rent to contributing breakthrough innovations to galactic civilization. The financial security was wonderful, but more important was the sense of purpose and belonging that came from meaningful work that helped entire civilizations. The latest reports from Earth show that the technology transfer programs are proceeding ahead of schedule, Princess Zara continued, reviewing diplomatic communications that arrived through quantum networks spanning thousands of star systems. "Human engineers trained in our facilities are returning to Earth with knowledge that's accelerating your planet's technological development. Any signs of social disruption from the rapid advancement?" Jake asked, concerned about the cultural impact of introducing advanced technology to human civilization. "Less than anticipated. Earth's population has adapted to technological change with remarkable flexibility and creativity." Princess Zara displayed progress reports that showed human society successfully integrating advanced capabilities while maintaining cultural integrity. "Your planet's approach to technological adoption has become a model for other developing civilizations." The Thomson Foundation, established by the Andromedan royal family in recognition of Jake's contributions to interstellar civilization, had become one of the galaxy's most influential educational and cultural exchange programs. The foundation provided opportunities for promising individuals from developing civilizations to access advanced education and training throughout the Trade Federation. This month's foundation graduates include representatives from 18 different species, Emma reported, reviewing data about students who'd benefited from programs inspired by her family's story. They're returning to their home worlds with knowledge that could transform entire civilizations. Jake watched holographic displays showing foundation graduates establishing educational institutions, developing sustainable technologies, and creating cultural bridges between their home worlds and galactic civilization. The impact of their simple act of kindness toward a stranded traveler had rippled across multiple star systems. "Princess Zara," Jake said formally, using the address they maintained for official occasions despite their personal friendship, "when you first crashed in our parking lot, did you know this would happen?" "I knew that helping someone in need was the right thing to do," she replied with a smile that reminded Jake of their first breakfast together in his modest apartment. "I suspected that kindness and competence were qualities that would be valued in galactic civilization. But I had no idea that your family would become such influential contributors to interstellar society." Emma approached Princess Zara with a tablet containing her latest artistic project, a holographic sculpture that depicted the progression from their first meeting to their current roles in galactic civilization. The artwork captured the essence of how simple human decency had created connections that transformed multiple worlds. "This represents our friendship and how it changed everything," Emma explained, activating the sculpture's temporal display that showed their story unfolding across time and space. From fixing a broken spaceship to fixing relationships between entire civilizations. Princess Zara studied the artwork with the appreciation of someone whose royal education had included extensive training in cultural analysis and artistic interpretation. Emma, this piece perfectly captures how individual relationships can influence entire civilizations. Your artistic vision has matured remarkably. Jake looked around the advanced facility where humans and aliens worked together on projects that benefited billions of beings across the galaxy, then at his daughter who was casually conversing with galactic royalty about art and diplomacy, and finally at Princess Zara whose friendship had opened doorways to possibilities he could never have imagined. When I was working on your ship that first night, he said to Princess Zara, I never thought I was starting a career in interstellar diplomacy. When I crashed in your parking lot, she replied, I never thought I was beginning the most important friendship of my life. Emma looked up from her tablet where she'd been sketching plans for her next artistic project, a piece that would celebrate the cultural connections between Earth and the Andromedan Trade Federation. Daddy, do you think other people will have adventures like ours? Jake considered the foundation programs that were providing opportunities for thousands of individuals to contribute to galactic civilization, the technology transfer initiatives that were transforming entire worlds, and the cultural exchange projects that were building understanding between species. I think, sweetheart, that our adventure is just the beginning. There are probably lots of people throughout the galaxy who just need someone to believe in their potential and give them a chance to contribute something meaningful. Princess Zara nodded in agreement, her expression carrying the satisfaction of someone whose life's work involved creating opportunities for such transformative connections. Jake, your family has proven that the most valuable relationships in galactic civilization are built through kindness, competence, and mutual respect rather than wealth or status. That lesson is being taught throughout the Trade Federation. As Jake watched Emma return to her studies and Princess Zara coordinate diplomatic communications with distant star systems, he reflected that the most important moment in his life had been deciding to help a stranger in need. That simple choice had led to friendships that spanned the galaxy and opportunities that transformed not just his family's circumstances, but the relationship between entire civilizations. The universe, it turned out, rewarded kindness in ways that exceeded imagination.